Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to first begin by thanking everyone who's taken the time out of their day to join us this morning. My name is Jason Moss, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator at Allied Communications. Joining us today is Tyler Smith from Vonage, and Tyler's going to walk us through Vonage's contact center solutions offerings and how they should be a vital addition to your organization in 2020. I'll be monitoring the chat, so feel free to ask any questions that you guys have as they arise. We're also going to leave some time at the end of the presentation for a Q&A. If you'd rather save them for then, that's fine. At this time, I'm going to turn the discussion over to Tyler. Tyler, thank you again for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Jason. So I'm excited to talk through this, contact as a service discussion, and we'll be talking through a little bit of what Vonage is all about. And we'll start off with you trying to get to know us a little bit. Set up with some background. So Vonage is really made up of quite a few acquisitions from a different technology stack. And our vision and our goal in life has been to acquire the right pieces of technology to be able to do and provide all the different technology components when you talk about unified communications, contact center as a service, and other voice applications, and to really create what we call the world's most flexible communications platform, which includes both unified communications, and that space is very busy, right? There's a lot of competitors, a lot of offerings in the unified communications space. And our offering is currently now on our own technology and is very comparable and fully feature and functionality. And we feel like we've got a great offering in that space. But we also acquired a contact center service, contact center company with New Voice Media. And that acquisition came about a year and a half ago. And we've also been part of building a communications API group. We acquired Nexmo. And so we are currently made up of all of these different components, right? So our most recent acquisition has been an AI component, right? So we have purchased a company that has been in the video conferencing space. And our goal is really kind of coming together at this point where we have the ability to support on our own technology and our own code and our own stacks, all of these different components, right? So UCaaS, CCaaS, and communications API. So we'll talk through a little bit of that and we'll demonstrate that. Today, we're going to focus in on contact center. And so we'll be jumping into some demonstration around some of those different types of things and where we differentiate ourselves in that contact center space. But we'll talk through that at this point. So as you think about some of the global trends that are happening in contact center, there are significant migrations towards leveraging technology differently and not having your traditional contact center to just take phone calls, right? So the idea of maybe able to sort through some of their needs around AI components, right? The idea of using the different pieces that a company has in their environment, whether that's a different CRM, whether that's a cloud-based CRM, whether that is automating order information back into back-end systems, the SAP systems, or the other types of systems that send out tracking information and those kinds of things, right? The idea around leveraging data to be as efficient as possible and really changing customers' experience. The world might have changed from the traditional call in to a contact center person and go through a menu tree and talk to them, where a lot of folks would rather do a web chat to get the interaction that they're looking for, or they would like to leverage whatever social media platform that they care to use to solve their issues, right? And so gone are probably the days of just supporting people with an 800 number and taking phone calls, right? We need to support your end customers and change their experience and make it match what they're looking for, right? My personal taste, like if I would have a chance of calling in to tech support for whatever type of electronic gadget I've got. I'd rather start off with a chat because I'm a technical person. I've probably done the basic troubleshooting anyways. I don't really want to start at the base level. I want to find my way to something simple, or if it's a billing issue or whatever, then I can resolve it with a chat. I'd love to do that, right? So your customers are in that space navigating those types of things. And you think about the trend moving away from premise-based contact center solutions are the need to be able to be, sophisticated at scale. And so when you think about a cloud-based solution, we can have sophisticated services and options for a very small group of users, where that traditionally was a challenge, right? You can't have in a premise mode, it's very challenging to get a fully featured contact center solution for 10 users. But in the cloud model, that's really where we can excel. And almost every organization that you talk to, that I interact with, has a need in that contact center space, right? And whether that's a small scale or whether it's a really large, 500 agents sitting in a brick and mortar facility, or it's 20 agents that are maybe customer service or IT support, or all different kinds of scenarios, we can leverage cloud-based with lots of different solutions, right? So we'll spend some time with some of these ideas, right? The idea that we can change the customer's experience, the idea that we are a global-based company, not just North America. We have contact center solutions and technology spread across the environment. In our particular contact center solution, we are working primarily inside of the Salesforce space, and we'll explain a little bit more of that in the demonstration. And obviously, we've got a great support model. So we are well recognized inside of the Salesforce ecosystem as one of the strongest players in the contact center space. And so those are the opportunities that we really excel at. When you think about the Salesforce App Exchange, there is a rating system, just like in most, Google Play or the iOS store inside of Apple. People rate the applications, right? And so when you think about us in the App Exchange inside of Salesforce, we're sitting consistently at a 4.9 with a lot of reviews. So a lot of people have leveraged the Salesforce applications inside of the contact center space from our perspective, and are very, very pleased with that. So some of these benefits we talk about in the cloud-based architecture is just the scale, functionality, the idea of not having to do with some of the carrier functionality and getting chunks and distributing them across these environments. And the idea that we're really driving Salesforce adoption, and that's partly why Salesforce brings us opportunities in the contact center space, because we enable them to be very sticky and it's provide an excellent experience for the end user as well. Because our contact center really is going to, as you'll see here in just a minute, is really driven towards a Salesforce experience as well. So from a partner perspective, right? So working in the channel, we are really doubling down on our focus on making that experience a strong one. So as you think about bringing your customers to us, it's key that we make that experience a strong one, right? So we have currently reorganized some of our resources in the professional services space, right, to do the implementations and keep customers happy and supported, where we have dedicated resources to channel engagement, right? So opportunities that come through the channel with dedicated support numbers, supporting these folks that are in the master and sub-agents communities, to give them the great level of experience that they expect. And, I've worked a lot in this particular space and seen, sub-agents that are hesitant to put their neck out there with a provider. And make sure that's a great experience for that end user. And that implementation component has been something that we have put a lot of effort towards, and wanting to make sure that your customers are well taken care of, and that their experience with us from an onboarding perspective is a strong one, right? So the idea of us driving our resources towards matching and lining up with the channel is an important component of what we've brought to the table recently. So we're going to switch gears here and jump into a little bit of a demonstration component, right? So I want to set the stage for a couple different things I'm going to show. And the first go around is going to be strictly a voice call that comes in from a service cloud perspective. So inside of Salesforce, there's the some of the more traditional packages have been Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. Service Cloud is geared towards a customer service organization where we'd call in for support and those types of things. So the first iteration of what I'm going to show you is based on Service Cloud. So we're going to be in a customer service environment. I have a customer who has interacted with the customer service team in the past. He's a known entity, and he's going to call in, and his IVR experience is going to be customized to the environment. So based on the criteria that has been put in, the IVR experience for the end customer would change. In this case, it's going to remember us. It's going to see us. It's going to remind us that there's an open case. Would you like to interact with that particular open case? And at the end of the call, there'll be a post-call survey. And potentially in the past, I have not necessarily given a great glowing response from the post-call survey perspective. So I will potentially have this call routed on a priority basis, right? So the IVR menu and experience changes based on the Salesforce data. From an end user perspective, what you're seeing here is basically Lightning Console inside of Salesforce, and the agent can interact with the contact center platform in this little pop-up that's over here. So we call this the contact pad, and I'm currently in a ready state, right? So traditional way of changing agents, right? I have these metrics that I can, or these statuses that I can change, and set my availability for. So currently I'm going to actually set for an away state, and we'll look at some of the way that these calls queue up. I'm also going to place a call, and we'll try and get you the audio for the end user side of the conversation. So then we'll walk through this call, demonstrate the ability that we have to take notes, and kind of go from there. So we'll start off with, let's see, I'm ready to do a phone call.
Welcome to the Vonage Contact Center demonstration line. We noticed that you recently opened a case, number 39196, with the subject of ongoing billing issues. If you are calling regarding this case, press 1. If you are calling regarding another existing case, press 2.
I'm going to press
if you
1.
are calling regarding a new issue, please hold while we transfer you to an agent.
So this is skilled up and queued up for me specifically, because I'm going to go ahead and go ready real quick. We'll take this call. I'm going to put myself up mute so I don't have feedback, but let's kind of talk through what just happened, right? So from the end user perspective, we looked at the Salesforce data, and we matched against a record for a contact and took a look at their case status. Because they had an open case, we presented them with a second option to directly route into that case. And that's the option that the end user selected. And so as a contact center agent, I got a screen pop for that case that had been referenced. And I'm automatically kind of dropped into the capability of start interacting with this customer and starting to log notes, right? So say customer called back in, and I can add whatever notes I need to do, right? And so it's automatically tied back into this particular Salesforce object of the existing case. And so I could save my notes and change the case status. And so in this case, I'm not going to resolve this customer's problems, but I am going to add some notes, and we'll go ahead and close this guy out and say we wrapped up this conversation, right? So I'm going to save the notes, and I'm going to release the call. So what will be given to the end user, right? We obviously interacted with agent, solved their problems, or told them that we're going to come back and sort them out, whatever that ends up being. But I got notification this is a standard support call with a particular case, and I'm going to finish out this call, and we'll be presented with a case survey, or I mean a survey at the end of the conversation. So we'll go ahead and drop that.
Thank you for participating in this short survey. Did we resolve your issue effectively the first time? For yes, press 1.
I'm going to select yes for 1.
On a scale from 0 to 10, how likely would you be to refer our services to a friend or colleague?
I'm going to give him a 7.
Please leave any comments about your experience today.
The agent was somewhat helpful, but did not resolve my case. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and drop that conversation from the end user's perspective, and I can come back and take a look at certain things, right? So because I went ahead and did post-call survey, I can go back to the contact object that was tied to. So I'm going to go quickly and navigate to it, and you'll notice here that I have some functionality that are tied back to this particular contact, and that would be post-call survey information. I actually went out. This is the one that just happened right this second. We grabbed some information related to the case. We got the response, and they were okay with the information, and I can actually relate back into the platform here and listen to that call recording if I wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and switch gears now, and we'll talk through a different solution. So as you can see from the interaction that we are trying to build, from an agent perspective, we're exclusively living inside of Salesforce, right? So they are taking their calls and making themselves available. They're being directed into the appropriate component inside of Salesforce to give notes and do these types of things. So the end user's experience is really driven towards staying inside of Salesforce, being inside of Salesforce, not having to come out to do anything else, right? So when you think about the interaction, that's certainly a large component. When we think about a reporting structure, right? So if we were to go ahead and let's look at some dashboards, for example. We're going to get some information out of this particular dashboard that is geared towards all of our contact center data, right? So, and as opposed to having to come out of Salesforce to get metrics and information on how the contact center is performing and those types of things, we're driving all of that functionality and all of those analytics back into Salesforce, right? So the idea of having everything in one experience from both kind of an agent perspective as well as supervisor and even contact center manager, right? Those people are going to consume the metrics around the contact center experience all inside of Salesforce. And that is a large advantage for somebody who really wants to be inside of Salesforce, essentially, right? Live and breathe and never come out aside of those types of things, right? So from a reporting perspective, we can grab individual reports, and that information is all driven towards contact center, right? So I'm inside Salesforce grabbing data that's associated with all of my contact center activities, right? So that is really the big takeaway that I think we're trying to drive to, is that this experience all lives inside of Salesforce. So I'm going to switch gears. We're going to do a different interaction and do a omni-channel interaction. So I am, let's see here, make myself ready. I'm going to go back away and then ready. And we're going to show kind of a web chat interaction. So this is going to be on the end user side. We'll make this a little bit different sized, and we're going to come back into wanting to chat with an expert. So this is where you put the front end web page for end user. I'm going to match my contact that I built inside my Salesforce environment. And I've also front-ended this particular chat with a little bit of AI bot intelligence as well. So I'm going to start a chat, and it is going to come back to me and say, hey, we've got, I see that we're trying, how can we help you? And give me some different menu options. So I'm going to select product help, and it's going to ask me for your email address. So I'm going to put that in, and it will match and say, hey, we know you. And you are also working with an agent and who's currently available. Would you like to chat with them now? We're going to say, yeah, let's do that. So we should get this routed over to us. So switching back from the customer experience on the, let's see. Let's take this chat here. Interesting. Well, there's a little bit of a glitch there. So I'm going to go away from the chat for right now. Not sure why it didn't let me answer that, but we'll come back to that. So the idea of being able to open a case via email, via chat, that's an important component, right, of what we've got going on. And so we want to build those types of things. Let me jump out of that real quick. And I'm going to switch this guy out. So refresh this page. All right, so there we go on the chat side of things. Chat comes through, I can interact with the end user. And let me mute that so that's not so loud. And we can go ahead and take our chat interaction and finish that. So I can automatically tie this back to the contact that's important. I can look as I tied back into the cases that are going, I can highlight that existing case that we had, and we can interact with the end customer. And that'll end up showing up on the other side. And for this purposes, I'm going to go ahead and finish out this dialogue right here. We'll end this chat, and it's automatically going to be saved back into the interaction that we've got going on. So we'll finish that and tie that guy off, and we'll start with, we're in a wrap-up timer as well because we just finished an interaction, and we're going to go ahead and put myself in away state. So I'm going to do an example now, switch gears and do a separate example of a different call flow that's really leveraging really a large component of the Vonage suite, right? So I mentioned the fact that we have an AI platform and that we purchased over AI and have integrated some of their technology into what we've got going on. So the needs around AI in the contact center space is always something that we can customize for the interaction. In this particular environment, the end user is going to do a little bit of triage with the AI front end, right? We're going to look for some product status information. based on what the AI can retrieve. And most of what we're going to hear is going to be menu-driven and voice-driven responses back into the contact center. And I can go down a couple of different roads. And in one case, I'm going to allow the system to give me a product information and let me know when the shipping date of a particular order is going to occur. I can also, in this demonstration, I'm going to leverage our API platform to send a message back to WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is not super widely used in the United States, but it is probably one of the most popular platforms that can be leveraged from a social media type application that's kind of a global solution. So in this case, I'm going to, because this is a known quantity for the end user, and I know that they've got WhatsApp, and I know that I've interacted with them in the past on WhatsApp, I can offer them the ability to send the status, not only via an audio AI front-ended conversation, but I can also integrate into our API platform and tie back into the end user's WhatsApp environment to send them information that way. So without that being further said, we're going to jump into a different call flow and get some information with this IVR. And so we're going to leverage, like I mentioned, the AI component, as well as we'll go down a couple different roads, and one of them will be leveraging our API component into the WhatsApp piece. So go ahead and push this call out here.
Welcome to the Vonage Contact Center demo. I'm able to support you with the status of your order or product help. So how can I help you today?
Can I get order status?
Welcome back, Ron. Is this about your most recent order or an earlier order?
Most recent.
The status of your order is created. The delivery date is August 17th, 2020. Is there anything you would like to change with that order?
Yes.
Okay. We will connect you with one of our representatives. Please wait a moment.
I'm going to go ready so I can take that call. And here comes the alert. And the call comes in. Let me go ahead and mute this on the one side. Accept it and mute. So as you can see, the end user the agent got notified. This is about a particular order right here in the contact pad. And then we screen pop that particular order, and the customer is going to ask questions and interact with it. And so from the end user perspective, or as far as the contact center agent is concerned, they're able to add notes and edit this and maybe change some of the different components. Maybe we can update the settings in this particular one and make it pending, and we'll go ahead and save the notes here. And I can also come back to the contact that's involved with this, and I can log the call information, right? So I'm going to link this particular call that came through to the agent all from a quick interface and add some particular notes here, and we'll link both of that to both objects inside of Salesforce. So I linked it to my order object as well as my contact object, kind of all in one. I need to do a call disposition code, all in one functionality. So we'll say order place, maybe some questions. The notes aren't the greatest right now, but we'll just go ahead and save that object, right? So I went ahead and accomplished those types of things. So I'm going to drop this call, and we'll get options for a survey. I'm going to go ahead and drop the survey and not do those types of things. So, and we'll do this one more time with maybe a different iteration here, and demonstrate that WhatsApp integration. So I'm going to call back in. This is going to be a kind of a self-service option where I'm going to let the IVR and the AI do its magic.
How can I help you today?
I'd like to look for order status.
Welcome back, Ron. Is this about your most recent order or an earlier order?
Most recent order.
The status of your order is pending. The delivery date is August 17, 2020. Is there anything you would like to change for that order?
No.
Do you want to receive the status of your order via WhatsApp?
Yes, I would.
Thank you for calling the Vonage Contact Center demo. This call will now be ended.
All right. So what's hard for me to show is the fact that that text information, what the AI retrieved from Salesforce and got sent back to me, it showed up on my WhatsApp application. So the order status, the delivery date, which is a very basic amount of information that we're providing in this example. But that was sent to me directly via the WhatsApp application, right? So I'm leveraging, in this example, AI to do self-service interaction and leveraging the data dip and information that comes out of Salesforce to grab that without having to take this call particularly with an agent, right? It's just status. And then I leverage our API platform to send it back out to a third-party application, really, that's separate from Salesforce and separate from those types of things. So it's one example of how we can bring the API platform to bear inside of a contact center solution, right? So APIs that can be built to do things like sending phone calls and SMS in many different forms is a capability that's native to us and unique in the industry, right? There's nobody else that has all of these technology components, right? So the UCaaS, the CCaaS, and API, contact center, video conferencing, artificial intelligence, all of those pieces inside of their own technology stack, right? So our competitors are leveraging and doing resales of other types of platforms, other applications, and those are good solutions. But some of the challenges around having that all on different platforms is it's not a seamless experience for the end user. And so what we're doing here is just that, leveraging our platform to make the end user's experience the right fit, right? They wanted to leverage WhatsApp, they wanted to leverage Salesforce and try and do some self-service type stuff. So just a couple different examples of how we can leverage different pieces of technology and customize a solution for the customer, right? So one of the takeaways I really want to have you have is if a customer has a contact center need and a Salesforce environment, we are a tremendous fit for them, right? Let's get in a conversation. Let's dive in and build a customized solution that the end user will be very, very happy with. And they can also leverage the capability of changing their customers' experience around these different technology offerings and build a really customized dynamic solution that fits their needs and is really designed to make them more efficient and to really drive their bottom line, essentially. So we're going to switch gears now, and I want to show you an example of a different tool set inside a contact center around conversation, and we call this Conversation Analyzer. So we're going to go ahead and let's take a look at this one. So Conversation Analyzer is an add-on solution that we have to change the experience. Maybe in a traditional contact center, you'll see the methodology of supervisors spot checking a couple of the calls that their agents have, right? Maybe it's driven by escalations, or, I randomly as a supervisor listen to 10 calls a day that my agents are doing or something like that, right? The challenge with those types of methodologies is it's a very, very small sample size and not necessarily a great viewpoint into the interaction that the agents are having and what they're doing, right? The behavior that they're putting into this and how much experience that they're doing. So introduce what Conversation Analyzer can bring to the environment. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to take the call and record it. Then we're going to transcribe the audio, separating the talk track between the end user and the contact center agent, looking for keywords and phrases, looking for the right kinds of behavior, and then provide analytics towards that transcribed information and keep records of it. In addition to giving a great viewpoint into individual phone calls, now I have data that really can be applied to every single phone call that comes through from an agent's perspective. So I'm not sampling just a couple of calls as manual basis. I'm doing this and sampling this using really an AI kind of call flow to listen to every single call and have somebody looking at the metrics, looking at the behaviors of those types of things. So let's dig down in here and take a look at this. So this is going to be the life of this particular call. We were in the IVR for 15 seconds. We were queued up for 49 seconds. The agents talked for 3 minutes and they were on hold as well, because there was some transfer behavior that occurred in this call, right? So as you drill back into, we have particular examples of the interaction that came through, right? So we've got tags around effectiveness, compliance, and politeness, communication, professionalism, right? We can jump into some subcategories around some of the phrases that were used. If you look down here, we have the separated talk track between the customer and the agent. The top is green, and that's the agent. We also get notification on the life cycle of this particular call, where we put someone on hold and we grabbed another person in the interaction to deal with it. We did a consult conference, and then we ended up transferring it off to somebody else. I can hover over these little bubbles and take a look at some of the pieces that are coming in. So the person said, apologize and help you, and thanks for calling, and some of those components. I could actually, as a supervisor, if we had an escalation or we had curse words or people that were upset, those would be flags that would show up here as well, and I could decide if I wanted to come back here and actually listen to this call. So I could play it here. I could go backwards and forwards. I can download it as well. But we can look and dig down here into the actual transcript, right? So, this is the conversation back and forth between the customer at different time snaps. And these are the keywords and phrases that got highlighted, put them on hold, apologizing for the delay, those kinds of things, right? So the idea of having analytics on every single call and deep analytics on the interactions that the agents are having allows you to look at trends. Are these agents good? Do they need training? Do they need to be improving on certain skill sets, right? Do we have a product issue because we have hundreds of particular calls that are coming in, on whatever offering that we've got? Maybe there's a bug in the software, or our widgets are breaking, or whatever the case may be. We'd have an analytic basis for recurring keywords and phrases and things that came in. So it's an interesting concept of leveraging technology to do the mundane task of really call monitoring and how the behavior is occurring, right? So it's a robust tool, and one of the other examples of some of the things we can bring to the table, leveraging these types of things. So with that being said, that's probably where I want to end the demonstration component of this. So to circle back to our conversations, right? What Vonage brings to the table, right, is the idea of, the realized idea and vision that's been we've been really working towards for the last 5 to 6 years. And that is wholly owning our technology stack. The only exception to that right now is the current collaboration platform that we're using. And that problem is also going to be remedied, right? So coming in the next 60 days, we'll be releasing our own messaging and collaboration platform, video conferencing, audio conferencing, and web sharing solution that's going to also be in our stack. And I think that rounds out really our full ability to have technology on our own stuff. The idea that we're globally scalable, that we can leverage many different components for customers, right? Every customer has their own specific needs, and we bring kind of the building blocks to what we feel like is this communication solution and platform to really provide every different type of need that they might have, right? Whether that's an integration, whether it's contact center, whether it's just plain old voice, or a combination of all of it, some of it, little bit of it, whatever the ends up the case may be. We can line our business and our solution back to what the customer is really trying to get to, and make sure that their experience is a good one, and really solve their goal of their improving their customer experience with their end users, right? So with that being said, that's kind of where I want to wrap up, and we could take some questions right now if we've got time for those, or have any that have popped up. I don't see any in the chat, but maybe you'll throw it back to Jason or the rest of the team, see if we have any other questions.
Hey, thank you very much, Tyler. At the time, I don't see any questions in the chat. If anybody does have a question right now, go ahead and type it in there and we can address it. But at this time, I would say, oh, I thought one came in, I guess not. If a question pops up later or any other time, you could always email Allied Communications directly at sales@alliedphone.com. And you can also call us at 203-937-0363. And once again, thank you everybody for joining us today. And if there are no current questions at this time, I hope everybody has a great day. Tyler, thank you once again.
Thank you.